Today we're going to talk about scanning Azure Assets with Tenable IO. I'll be talking about two primary components. An optional component is the Azure Connector within Tenable IO, and the required component is the Azure Nessus Core Scanner you'll find in the Azure Marketplace. This is the required scanner that's only allowed to scan assets within the Azure compute network itself that connects directly to the Tenable IO. The connector uses an API to ingest or import all of the compute assets that you've deployed or that your company has deployed within the Azure compute environment. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Under Settings, we go to Connector, and you'll see my predefined Azure Connector as I have configured. We'll see that there's an application ID, tenant ID, and the client secret. This allows the API connection from cloud to cloud, from the Azure cloud or Tenable IO cloud to connect to the Azure cloud, and specifically to your tenant. This import is scheduled, in this case, to import every hour, though its maximum import interval would be every 30 minutes. Minimum can be at any time otherwise. Once this has been configured, and an import has been successful, we'll be able to go and see those assets that have been imported using filters. We can confirm those assets by using the source category containing the Azure Connector. Select Apply, and we can see the list of compute objects that have been discovered within the Azure environment. Up until this point, we've not used the scanner at all. This is purely API-based, but what we can do is use this filter to apply to a scanner. Traditionally, you can also use the scanner with a predefined network property to scan the network LANs of devices that live on these networks here, but that's going to scan the full range or the full Cedar class. What the connector does is allows us to import those objects directly through the API and applies it directly to the scan. So let's take a quick look at tagging, because tagging allows us to dynamically apply that filter to an Azure defined tagging group. So as assets are discovered or imported through that connector, I would populate this group, and it's this group definition that gets applied to the scan. You can see the Azure VM ID specifically for the Nessus scanner that I have deployed. I've used the VM ID to isolate that from the scan group as to not scan it. Let's take a look at the scan, the sensors, and we can see that with my BYOL license and deployment, I've imported a Tenable Azure scanner. Now this scanner is offline for my home lab, but once it's deployed, you'll see it online consistent with the rest of the scanners. But take in mind that this scanner directly is specifically what you've provisioned. These are not shared scanners. That's the scanner that has been deployed through Marketplace associated with your compute environment. Once the scanner is part of your Tenable IO tenant, we can then go and define a scan that includes not only the scanner, but the tags that I've discussed that isolates those compute resources as part of the scan itself. So let's take a look at what that scan job looks like. And you can see that there is a very specific tag that I've defined. That's the tag that we spoke about earlier. And there are no target assets specified by IP, by Cedar class, by range, or by FQDN. We can also see that for the scanner itself, I have that Tenable Azure scanner associated with the scan. And that's basically all you need. Everything else is pretty standard to scans. We can assess discovery, any type of assessment, reports, or advanced settings with credentials. And these can be specific to the Azure environment credentials.